Okay. Well, first of all, congratulations by the event. Fantastic internet.
Thank you.
And today in the presentation
Okay.
of Jeff of the Andy, sorry, I I pay special attention about artificial intelligence, about SageMaker.
Yeah.
And I fell in love by the little car,
The deep razor.
yeah. And my first question is, well, AWS is investing a lot in intelligence artificial for cloud services, and how you see the connection between today and from the future between artificial intelligence and the cloud services.
Okay. To me, it's a really nice fit in that a lot of the challenges our customers have with machine learning is it's about scale in some way. In order to build a really high quality machine learning model, you need to start with a lot of data. And so if you're going to be collecting, generating, measuring, observing data, no better place to put that in the cloud where you've got this vast amount of storage. And then effectively, and there's a lot of details, but effectively the more data you have, the better quality you can do at building and training your machine learning models. I also think that machine learning, as important as it is one important component of a complex business solution.
Okay.
So when we say, okay, we're focused on machine learning, and it just becomes another tool in the developer toolkit, if you will, just another thing that they can use to build their applications. And my sense is that not too long from now, we'll see that effectively every application will have some kind of machine learning built in, to the point where right now you say, yes, it's this, and especially good because it has machine learning, but ultimately that will just be one more feature, right? It's an app that has storage, and it's an app that has messaging. Well, it has machine learning, but 5 years from now, we probably will say, yes, they're just services, and maybe not even have to qualify that they are machine learning services. So I think it's putting a lot of great power in front of developers. We're taking services that we built, that we've in cases used for our own internal systems and our own internal businesses, and the forecasting services, for example, used at gigantic scale on Amazon retail, now available to any developer. So a developer running their own e-commerce site that they built themselves is now really on equal footing with any size of site, effectively. So making all this power available to developers has been a strong, consistent theme from the beginning.
And Jeff, well, it's I was talking to Ale before the lunch about the number of developers of people qualified to program in machine learning, and we talk about and the meeting what I had 2 weeks ago with Google, they told me around the world today we have all the company, if you include everybody, we have 30,000 programmers specialized in machine learning, and one of the biggest challenge is increase this number, because there are 2,000 maybe looks like a lot of people, but if you consider the global scale,
right,
it's not that much. This actions like the deep racer or the machine learning, the marketplace of machine learning from Amazon is these actions are two steps to increase the community of the.
They absolutely are. So when we plan this event, when we plan re:Invent every year, the starting point is always training and education. How do we increase the knowledge level, the skill level of developers all over the world? And we don't do that and say that's only the developers that have the opportunity to come here, because that's just 50,000 people out of the whole world. That's small. So we absolutely think of training and education, and everything that we do here we make available online as quickly as possible. Our video processing team works round the clock to take all the videos that were taped at all the different sessions. The last number I saw, which was already a day old, was we'd already put 100 videos online. But we will put videos on from as many sessions as we can. We'll publish all of the presentations, and we make our teams available. One of the great opportunities that our customers have when they come here is they get to sit down and meet with all the different teams behind these services. So returning back to your question,
AI third layer.
we absolutely want to see more developers. Are you gonna? Please, thank you.
Yeah. Just like I have an Echo at home. I ask
Machine learning, yes.
Yes, we can be. We will be quiet.
Okay. So, yes, we will work to increase the number of developers that know how to build and train models over time. Absolutely important. But also, I think even more of a leverage point is going to be putting machine learning powered services out there that any developer can use. Where things like our translate service, where you say here's some text in English, and I want to translate it to Spanish or Portuguese or French or Italian or Hebrew or any number of other languages. So a service like that represents the efforts of many machine learning developers, but the developer that's making that just says, here's my English text, I want Portuguese text as a result, right? So they're able to get the benefit from that. Or our poly service that does text into audio speech, again, built and powered and formed by machine learning. The developer just says, here's a file, and I want to speak that text in sound format. They don't have to know anything about machine learning. So the under the covers or beneath the scene, behind the scenes, so I would like to kind of think about it. Machine learning is going to power more and more of these different kind of services going forward. Developers will be able to get the value from it without having to really be experts. A lot of the different things like some of the SageMaker tools we announced today, the reinforcement learning, the medical dictionaries, a lot of these different things are just going to really reduce the need for specialization in that business. So on the one side, we're going to really raise up the skill level. We're going to also lower down the requirement. And in the middle, we'll have millions of developers building some great applications.
Jeff, from the 20 sort of announcements we just saw this morning, which you feel they tend to be the greatest impact on the overall AWS business?
Well, interesting enough, I found it's very hard to make predictions over time, and I do think that the outposts, absolutely, this idea that customers can run the same, have access to the same AWS services in their own data centers on their own premises. Great way to again make AWS available to an even larger community. Certainly powerful. The whole collection of machine learning powered services. Going to have a great impact. You put these. The great thing about working with developers is that the developers just bring all this creativity to the table, and we're giving them these basic tools and services and offerings, and then the developers just take it and they start thinking all these really interesting thoughts and say, what can we do with this? And they build something really neat and really unique and special. So I look forward to actually being surprised by our developer community, and they've never let me down. They're always going to come up with something really, really neat and really interesting. It's always good to we launch things that are so surprising to customers, and they say, why is Amazon doing that? And we look, yesterday we launched the ground station service that makes it easier if you've got customers who have satellites, and people look at it and say, that's pretty weird. Why would you want to be in that business? Well, it turns out that there's this unmet need that it's easier and easier to get satellites into orbit, but it's actually a little bit challenging to get the data back from the satellite and then store it, process it in some way. Well, we know how to do that. We can make that happen.
Can I make a trick question?
Absolutely.
About the ground station?
Okay.
Amazon made the announcement about ground station yesterday, and if you look, Jeff Bezos is a co-founder of Blue Origin, specializing in create satellites. It's reasonable to say, of course not now, but in a few years, Amazon can have a product, for example, that control the point-to-point, the whole control of the management of data between ground station and satellites?
Certainly, I would not be one to guess, only because the team hasn't given me any insight into where they're going. And The interesting way that we build things is that about 90% of what we will build at any point is driven by customer requests. So when we're going to put Ground Station out there for customers, it's a big first step. But then when we look back at this 10 years from now, it'll be like the 10% step. We did that first enabling part, and then customers said, okay, now we're doing this. So we do this part, and this part, and this part. And that's the really interesting thing that like I said, our customers are so creative with these different services that I received emails from 5 different long lost people this morning already that said Ground Station sounds very interesting and can you connect me up with the team, what can we do with it? So
No, and what caught my attention is that the cost, the reduce of costs would be until 18%, right, of the regular practical, the regular practicals in the industry, in this kind of industry, because you management data from using satellites is very expensive.
right. Which is very interesting because every other cost associated with building the satellite, getting it to orbit, those have been kind of heading downhill very, very nicely.
Okay.
Now,
Cesar had something also just to understand from your role as an evangelist, the chief of this side. So, how do you see Latin America when it comes to bring ideas? This is a mature and fertile field for your message, or does it still have obstacles to absorb what we're saying? And in the context of human resources and culture, so how is the response?
I have to say I'm not personally as familiar with the whole LATAM market as I would like to be. I know that from Central America all the way through to South America, we have a lot of customers. We have great offices. We've got the AWS region has been in Brazil, has been one of our first regions that we built outside of the U.S. was in Brazil. I think that any part of the world with kind of a youngish population that's technically savvy, that's on their cell phones all the time, and is well educated, certainly potential to grow up and be great developers and great entrepreneurs. So could expect some great things from LATAM in the coming years. We absolutely for sure make sure that all of our training materials, our documentation, available in as many languages as possible. We have a tremendous translation team that as soon as we get something written in English, we get things published in 12, 14 other languages within hours. And so we try not to be a US-centric, English-only company. We recognize absolutely that we have a global audience.
Okay, thank you.
And back to about machine learning, do you see in your observations? Do you see if there are any specific region for Europe or Latin or US or Asia, there are more people specialized. For example, the Asians have have better adaptation to codes and to machine learning. There are any region who specifically have stronger.
Not that I'm aware of it. I kind of have a personal philosophy to kind of not draw too many lines around people. I would much prefer just to think of everybody as customers versus we have customers here with this nationality customer. I just prefer to think of everybody in the world as our customers. So
Okay.
just kind of a personal way I like to think and to treat people.
No, I understand. Thank you.
But I think once you start to draw the lines, it's too easy to almost have kind of stereotypes and say, well,
Oh, yeah,
people
true.
are
No,
here
no,
like
no.
this,
Yeah, no,
or
no,
people
true.
are like that, and so I don't tend to kind of organize my thought process. that way.
I totally understand. No, my intention is not to start by. It's just because for example, in Brazil we have I ask you because, for example, in Brazil we have certain regions in Brazil. We have a good universities specialized in technology, so we have good developers or programmers, for example, in one specific region. If you compare one another, who don't, where we don't have. But so, in fact, the intention of the goal of the question is just as simple. In Asia, they have more. They get more easily how to program to machine learning, or India or US.
I'm not. It's possible somebody in the company has that data. I personally don't. We're strong believers as a company in education. We also have a program called AWS Educate, where we work with educators all over the world, from K through 12 up through higher learning. We provide course materials. We give credits so that the professors and teachers can get access to our services at no cost. We support them. We send our other evangelists out there to help give talks and solution architects to do some training.
And I think it would be interesting if you could give an overview of how do we work as an evangelist. So, because we're bringing so many new challenges and opportunities to the market. So, how does you and your team do this?
So, what we think of as evangelists is you can kind of think of us as, we almost all have a very technical background. I've got a computer science degree and built things with code for a very, very long time. But we always enjoyed kind of explaining or sharing. So we basically say, let's use our technical background to understand something really well, and let's go out and share it with an audience. And so some of my colleagues, they spend a lot of time traveling the world, and they fly all the time, and they go up on stage and talk to people. Most of my evangelism is more online. So my biggest piece of work is the AWS blog that I've been writing that blog since 2004. So it's now 14 years old. I've been working on that same blog. I use that to share information about, I talk about new services, I talk about new regions, I talk about customer successes, I share materials that we've created for education. So effectively, evangelism is really just being a very good technical communicator in a way that's kind of positive and enthusiastic. That says, here's something new, and we sure hope that you find it really interesting and try it out. So definitely a unique and fun role to have. The real challenge is that we're launching so many services, and you have to be you have to be knowledgeable in everything very quickly.
And it's curious because I cover technology for, I don't know, 15 years, maybe 17, I don't remember that. And blogs, since then, always was a very strong tool to bring people to know better technology. I told you because today we have a lot of tools, multimedia tools like videos and social media, but for developers, blog always was a strong
Developers
tool.
like to read.
Maybe the stronger,
Yeah.
the strongest tool to
This is what
share
my blog reaches an audience of millions of people every year. The last year we reached somewhere between 2 and 3 million people, if I remember the numbers. So my best use is just really sitting at the keyboard and writing content.
Okay. No.
Yeah. Oh, you 14 years writing the
14
blog.
years and I've over 3,000 blog posts so far.
And
How much?
the
Sorry?
3,000.
3,000 posts.
Yes.
And did the response change it a lot, or they, in a way, it has been always consistent?
It's gotten better and better over time, and I have lots and lots of friends and fans. When I go out and I walk around, people stop me all the time. They tell me these great stories. They tell me about how they started reading 3 years, 4 years ago. They tell me about how they've progressed in their career, in a little part because they've learned something from things I've written and shared with them. So it's actually very satisfying.
I can imagine.
Really satisfying.
And which kind of question do you receive about from the visitors? Which kind of doubts they have?
Not a whole lot, actually. They're generally they always want us to make sure that when we launch new services, that we make them available globally as quickly as possible. A definite challenge. They want to make sure that we fully explain them so that they can understand what they are and they can use them. In the very early days, we're talking going back probably 8 years at this point, they ask a lot of questions about data security and things like that, and encryption. Those questions really just don't come up anymore. We made very, very clear early on that we would design security from the beginning. We publish a lot of details about our security practices. We have any number of services that help our customers to be more and more secure in their use of the cloud. So As far as questions about security,
Security.
very rare.
Very important.
They'll often actually look and say, they'll look at all the documentation, all the certifications, all the different kind of rubber stamps that we get that we have to earn with being able to put the right security into place. And they'll say, all things considered, probably AWS security is going to be stronger than what they can do on their own. Looks like we're about
Yes.
out of time.